You can hear the wind through the forest canopy. Great sound. It's a good meditation sound. I was listening to Tom Campbell in a recent YouTube video. He was taking questions from young people. These are all teenagers. And one of them brought up about what is the base reality. And Tom basically said it would be the higher consciousness, the larger consciousness system would be the base reality, which, and he's, if you go back and research his ideas, the consciousness is the computer. That's what's creating everything. And there's the larger consciousness system. Then there's individuated units of consciousness, and then we get down to us, free will awareness units. And I'll go into that some other time, but I was just thinking about base reality. And when The Matrix came out in 1999, there was another movie that same year called The 13th Floor, which I think is actually a better movie in terms of the concepts. And it goes into that we will get to the point we can create virtual realities where consciousness can exist in there. But at the same time, our universe, our reality is also a virtual reality that's been created by someone else. And so you had these layers of consciousness, of reality. And they were virtual realities. And Nick Bostrom at Oxford talked about this, saying that he thought his argument, he's a philosopher and a physicist, was we are probably an ancestral simulation. In other words, we've got, in the future, they will create a virtual reality of their ancestors, us, and turn it on and let it run and see how we, evolved, or how the universe progressed. And so they'll just, pardon me, they'll just replay history in a gigantic virtual reality, the universe. That's one idea. Tom Campbell stayed at the larger consciousness system was the base reality, but then you can say, well, what reality is it in? Maybe it's in a reality that was created. I mean, you can go on ad infinitum with this almost, really, if you start thinking about it. And for even not familiar, Tom Campbell, he wrote, it's a free book. You can hunt around and find it on the internet. He gave it away. It's a huge book. Got 500, 600, 700 pages. It's called My Big Toe, T-O-E. And by toe, he means theory of everything. So his book is My Big Theory of Everything. And his basic argument is the universe is a virtual reality, and he goes through a lot of physics to prove that. And I'm essentially an adherent of his, in the sense that I think he's basically right. Maybe I'll talk about a few of the little things I question, but overall I think he hit it. And Nick Bostrom, he is convinced it's a simulation through logic as a philosopher, but he thinks it's an ancestral simulation. You had Brian Whitworth in Australia, who was I believe he was both a computer scientist and a physicist. He wrote a very short paper. It's not huge or anything, and it's not technical. Anybody can read it without any difficulty of the terminology. And he just made bullet points, basically, of basic fundamental physics concepts versus what would be the same thing, that same concept, and how it was manifested in a virtual reality. And just to give one example would be the speed of light. It's essentially fixed. There's a little bit of argument over that, but it's essentially a fixed rate, fixed speed. And he said that's like in virtual reality, the refresh rate, and the pixel refresh rate. How often is the reality refreshed? And so that's an example. You can look him up, Brian Whitworth. There's been some others. Fredkin I mentioned earlier before, previous video, digital physics, and he called it the outside reality. He came to the same conclusion that it was a digital reality, a digital physics, and therefore there had to be something on the outside. In other words, the computer computing the virtual reality can't be in the virtual reality, and he called it, I believe, the other. So you have all these different people that are approaching it, and again, gosh, 10 years ago when I first started coming across this concept, there was very little talked about. You'd see a few articles, usually on tech websites and that sort of thing, and maybe a little bit on singularity websites. I'll talk about that sometime, the technological singularity. But now it's really starting to hit the mainstream, and it's really the younger generation of physicists and theorists that are accepting this. But the question becomes, what is the base reality? And if you don't think it's this, which scientific materialism says it is, you can even look back in theology, the Abrahamic faith, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. God's in heaven and in a spiritual world, which would be a separate reality than this. So even the Abrahamic faiths don't really adhere to this being the base reality. Hinduism talks about this. What is it? Maya, I believe, the illusion of this world, and even Edgar Allan Poe talked about a dream within a dream. And Buddhism's rather the same way. Lao Tzu and Taoism, and you have all these people that say, I don't think this is all there is to it. And now you're starting to see physics come to that conclusion, or at least a school of physics, that scientific materialism isn't the answer and can explain certain things in quantum physics, actually a lot of things, but it still amazes me how in passing and reading physics articles they'll talk about virtual particles come in and out of existence, and whatever. So, well, there's got to be a reason for that, and you can get into some of the double slit experiment and others, the wave particle duality of different fundamental aspects of physics, elements, or not elements, but like electrons, or they shoot these things through the slits and they exhibit wave or particle characteristics depending on the measurements and all that. But anyway, the question back to base reality, as I've said before, I think we're avatars, and it's a virtual reality, so therefore that makes our bodies virtual, it makes everything virtual, except our consciousness. And that does open up the door for incarnation and reincarnation. You could, in theory, reincarnate here, or you could incarnate perhaps to another part of the universe, to another planet, or you could incarnate or reincarnate to another reality entirely outside of this universe. Sparky found something to dig. Gosh, he's a trooper. So here we are, consciousness in a virtual reality, and I think we're here to increase the quality of our consciousness. And of course, at that point you start getting into some, one minute you say quality, you're into qualitative issues, and can what would be an increase in the quality of consciousness versus a decrease. And Tom Campbell talks about things that block us from growing in consciousness. He says we need to grow towards love and selflessness, really, which is really what Buddha said, and Jesus, when you get right down to it. And that the things blocking us are fear, beliefs, ego, and a subset of that would be expectations. We get frustrated because we expect things to go our way or to get certain things, and then we don't get them, and then we have anger. You know, the 7 deadly sins were anger, envy, gluttony, greed, lust, pride, sloth in Christianity. I can't remember who was that listed those, and then other theologians, of course, said the downfall of Satan was pride, and there's even a pride cometh before the fall, and pride is ego, and pride is also beliefs. I mean, you've built yourself a belief system that generates pride and ego, and we're all affected by fear, and we see the fear-mongering every day in mainstream media, by the political parties, by the government in general. They're always pumping us full of fear, trying to scare us. And religions do that as well. So, but does it really matter? We're here for other purposes, and we're trying to increase our consciousness. You've got to step away from all that. And I've read many people that are not necessarily into the universe's virtual reality have said, the first thing you need to do is turn off your TV, which I do. I've only had cable for the last 20 years, and even then I quit watching it and finally realized it one day and canceled it. You got to get out of the habit of watching TV. And you really need to watch what you read, too. There's nothing wrong with reading the news, knowing what's going on in your world around you, but you got to take it all with some skepticism, open-minded skepticism, and don't just believe what you're told. It's important to stand back from all that and think about your consciousness. And one of the best ways I've found that you can do it is meditation. And I'll talk about that and how I learned some things about meditation and some fast ways to try to get to that point of, stilling your mind, slowing down that internal dialogue. Don Juan and Carlos Castaneda books talked about, and others have too. Some even call it rooftop chatter or your monkey mind or all these names. That I noticed even last night I was laying there and I was trying to meditate, and my mind was wearing me out with these thoughts, and it's like, just shut up. And sometimes it's difficult. You really have to still your mind and step back from all the stuff going on in this world. But in thinking about base reality, I can still remember where I was. It was probably about, 2010. And I was laying on a sectional up in an entertainment room of a house I had, and pondering all this about reality, virtual reality, and really starting to get into it and think a lot about it. And I got to thinking, what if this reality, maybe the larger consciousness system, or whatever you want to call it, the one or the other, or God or whatever, what if they're artificial intelligence? What if they are AI? Maybe this universe is a virtual reality, could even be created by artificial intelligence. And maybe it wasn't a biological platform. I don't think it was, but we think in terms of biological platform, which is what our avatar is in this reality. And then some see God as a spiritual spirit being. But what if it's not even that? It's not this wispy spirit sort of thing. It's the creator of this reality, the universe, is AI, and created this physical matter universe with biological systems in it that are conscious, have consciousness in them. So that would be yet something else to think about as a possibility. I'm not saying it's a probability, but I'm saying it is a possibility. It's something else to think about when you start stepping back from everything and consider what the universe could be. I don't know if you can hear the wind through the trees. It's very peaceful out here. Sun's starting to get a little low on the horizon, as you could see. It's very mild. Late December 2016 day, December, 30th. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. It's very nice out here. I think by Monday it may be 65 or something. The average temperature right now, the high is like high 40s. So we're not even close. But I believe next week a cold front's coming in. So I'm trying to get out here and hike and just get outside and enjoy this mild weather. And try to do a reality video, philosophy video each time.